can ever learn. It's a simple idea, but it's so easy to overlook. And once you grasp it, you'll be able to make better sense of your own life, understand why the world is the way it is, and become more at ease with what the future has in store. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos once said that he's often asked what's going to change in the next 10 years. I almost never get the question, what's not going to change in the next 10 years, he said. And I submit to you that the second question is actually the more important of the two. Things that never change are important because you can put so much confidence into knowing how they'll shape the future. Bezos said it's impossible to imagine a future where Amazon customers don't want low prices and fast shipping, so he can put enormous investment into those things. The same philosophy works in almost all areas of life. I have no clue what the stock market will do next year, or any year, but I'm very confident about people's penchant for greed and fear, which never changes. So that's what I spend my time thinking about. I have no idea who will win the next presidential election, but I'm confident about the ways people's attachment to tribal identities influences their thinking, which is the same today as it was 1,000 years ago and will be 1,000 years from now. I cannot tell you what businesses will dominate the next decade, but I can tell you how business leaders let success go to their heads, becoming lazy and entitled, and eventually losing their edge. That story hasn't changed in hundreds of years and never will. Philosophers have spent centuries discussing the idea that there are an infinite number of ways your life could play out, and you just happen to be living in this specific version. It's a wild thing to contemplate, and it leads to the question, what would be true in every imaginable version of your life, not just this one? Those universal truths are obviously the most important things to focus on because they don't rely on chance, luck, or accident. Entrepreneur and investor Naval Ravikant put it this way: in 1,000 parallel universes, you want to be wealthy in 999 of them. You don't want to be wealthy in the 50 of them where you got lucky. So we want to factor luck out of it. I want to live in a way that if my life played out 1,000 times, Naval is successful 999 times. That's what this book is about. In 1,000 parallel universes, what would be true in every single one? Each of the following 23 chapters can be listened to independently, so there's no harm in skipping and choosing as you wish. What they have in common is that I'm confident each of these topics will be as relevant hundreds of years from now as they were hundreds of years ago. None of the chapters are long, and you're welcome for that. Many are derived from my blog at the Collaborative Fund, where I write about the intersection of money, history, and psychology. The first looks at how fragile the world is, with a personal story about the scariest day of my life. Hanging by a thread. If you know where we've been, you realize we have no idea where we're going. A big lesson from history is realizing how much of the world hangs by a thread. Some of the biggest and most consequential changes in history happened because of a random, unforeseeable, thoughtless encounter or decision that led to magic or mayhem. Author Tim Urban once wrote, "If you went back in time before your birth, you'd be terrified to do anything, because you'd know that even the smallest nudges to the present can have major impacts on the future." How hauntingly true. Let me tell you a personal story about how I became interested in this topic. I grew up ski racing in Lake Tahoe. I was on the Squaw Valley ski team, and it was the center of my life for a decade. Our ski team consisted of a dozen racers. By the early 2000s, we were teenagers, and most of us had spent the majority of our lives together. We skied 6 days a week, 10 months a year, traveling the globe to wherever we could find snow. I wasn't close to most of them,